All right, we're rolling. Jihane,
Woohoo!
welcome to the Chris Begin Show. We are long-term
Thank you.
friends. It's absolutely wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
an honor.
thank you. Well, thank you for that. So, for the audience who doesn't know Jihane, or Jihane Alaoui, as we properly
My
say it in French,
complicated name,
yes.
yeah.
So, Jihane, you're from I call it like the Northern Quebec, Tremblant, Laurentians area,
Yeah.
obviously. And
Yeah.
we originally met, I want to say a few years ago now, maybe 4 or 5, I think, at a Tony Robbins event in
Maybe
West Palm
more.
Beach.
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Maybe more than 5 years
I
or
think it
but
was,
yeah.
yeah, it's been a
It's
while.
been a
It's
while.
been a while.
Yeah.
And me moving to the Tremblant area, you've been a major, major inspiration to me, discovering as Joe Rogan says, like the healingness of what nature can do and bring for you
Yeah.
and stuff. And we met at that Tony Robbins event at the event called Unleash the Power Within. And I'm sure we would both say it was absolutely transformational.
Yeah. Life changing.
Life changing, yeah.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's watching this, and I'm sure you would recommend too,
So true.
you got to go do one of these
Yeah.
events in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he says life will never be the same, like
Yeah,
it's true.
I get goosebumps.
Yeah, I know.
Like actually
And I even like
thinking,
remember the song and everything, like and the song playing, and I'm like, it's true. Life was never the
life
same
was
after.
never absolutely the same.
Yeah, totally.
A little bit more for our audience, Jihane, about your awesome self is, originally you started out, life and, your corporate career and stuff like that actually as an RPN, a nurse, not a nurse practitioner, but a registered nurse, essentially.
Exactly.
And you've embarked, it's safe to say from that Tony Robbins event into like a whole new transformational journey.
Yeah.
Into right now, I would like to recognize you as a very prominent, respected online influencer. And your, real specialty is the subconsciousness expertise and self-awareness topic, right?
Yeah.
It's just something we're not taught in school in any way, shape, or form,
Nope.
in my opinion.
Exactly.
And that could be, something that holds a lot of us back. It's a
Yeah.
blind spot, I think, for a lot of
So
us.
much what I believe.
Yeah, and also too, a big thing that like I believe you've really, really grown in over the last few years when you discovered that you had a really good soul purpose, heart calling to be a hypnotist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being a hypnotist with a main focus of really helping people unfold into understanding and becoming very hyper aware of,
Exactly.
prior self experiences that we have,
Yeah.
and its result in the patterns, the beliefs, the
Yeah.
programming, the rituals
Exactly.
that we currently have right now, and really helping people with that newfound awareness discover where there's those opportunities for self growth, self improvement, new stories that I love the term helping you discover a new path forward into unfolding into really what your true potential
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
which is so remarkable, helping contribute and serve and help others.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Also, just let the audience know, Jihane, you're absolutely an incredible super mom of 3 amazing kids who I've
Yeah.
had the privilege of many times hanging out with.
Yeah.
They're awesome. Your little boy, he's kicking butt in boxing, I hear these
Yeah.
days. Yeah.
Martial arts.
Martial
like,
arts,
yeah.
yeah. That
He's
is
super
great.
focused. Yeah.
And one other thing I wanted to share with the audience is that, and one of the reasons why, like, I just have such a profound respect and appreciation for you being in my life, is because you have a really, really incredible transformational story. I would like
Yeah.
to say, and I believe strongly that that transformational journey really, really began for you at that Unleash the Power Within
Yeah.
event. And it really did for me too. That was really the first event that I had of a Tony Robbins event that really opened, my eyes to like the real world of possibility. And within that transformational journey, you've really achieved like this understanding of how to elevate yourself, to elevate your vibration, elevate the frequency you're on, and to really embrace that daily, in your life. And it being embraced daily in your life is so much easier for you to, share that knowledge, share that wisdom, so that way, not just yourself every day, others can really live in the state in which they really deserve, how they should feel. And from that state, have a far better deserving chance of achieving the results that you really want to achieve, experience, and
sure.
deserve out of your life.
Yeah.
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 Cool.
That's
Well,
a great introduction. Yeah.
well, you deserve it, Jihane. And
Thank you.
I really would love, if it's okay with you, we can kind of start maybe with, leading up to like, the Tony Robbins event and, where you're at,
Yeah.
that Unleash the Power Within event, because, there's that event where, that was where like, the transformation journey began. But I think there's also another piece that, it's where you were before.
Yeah.
And
So
let's
important.
talk about that. Wherever you
Yeah.
want to start, I'm all ears.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that event was like the breaking point, like where I remember you two were going through like
Yes.
a different life, right? Like
Yeah.
I had a different life before that event and after. And when I think about the period of time before UPW, I was in a dark place. But maybe like people couldn't tell from the outside because like I've always been like bubbly and smiling, and you never know what someone's going through, right? You know, like you can see a little bit. But I remember I had my kids, and then I started like having back pain, like but really intense back pain, and I was like 27 years old. And then the
Yes.
back pain, it's young, right?
Yes.
It's young. And I've always like been into sports, and like my dad is a super like, he's so healthy. Like
Your
even
dad's a
now.
medical practitioner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. He's an oncologist. So
Yes.
he's always been about like health. And I remember like when I was a kid, I'd get mad at him because like instead of going to the movies, he'd be like, oh no, you're coming with me, we're going for a run. Or at 14 years old, now you can come to the gym with me, we're going to the gym. And I was like, can I just like hang out and not do nothing like with all the other kids? And he was like, for him it was like discipline was like super important. And then it has its extremes also, like in everything. But for him it was like, be good in school and be good in sports and like take care of yourself and go to bed early and everything. So
Yes.
like when I was young, for me, I didn't see it as a gift. Today, now I'm sure we'll get to touch on that, but like sports and fitness and gym and like all of this, like I always tell my dad, I'm like, because of you, like because of that, he was so rigid about it. I'm like, because of you, this is where I found healing. This is what keeps me mentally sane, and I could never like live without it, So I was like all into sports and stuff, and I gave birth. Everything was smooth. Everything was okay. And then this back pain that's starting, and then I started having trouble. Like I couldn't go to the gym anymore. I was like walking, it would hurt. I couldn't sleep anymore because it would hurt.
Wow.
And it became like worse and worse and worse. And I was married at the time with the father of my kids. And we got to a point where he had to like cancel on work to like stay home and help me. And I wasn't able to like put my kids in the bathtub, and I wasn't able to like bend down, and like it was getting like worse and worse. And then I started like feeling depressed, and I would like cry all the time, and I was like, okay, like my life is over, and
Right.
I can't do anything anymore. And then it started like it's a vicious circle, right? You're like low on energy, and then you're going through pain, and then it gets dark in your head. You're like, fuck, like what am I gonna do? Sorry for the cursing.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
I'm like,
this is one of those shows where we allow that. It's called being real, genuine, authentic.
this is why I'm like, you told me, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm coming. No preparation, just be your real self.
Bring
Let's
the big
go.
bag of swears.
And
Here
I
we
know,
go.
but Tony Robbins like talks about this so much. He's like,
Yeah.
sometimes we need these
It's
words
real.
to like really express something. And I'm like, yeah, I use them, And then it started like getting dark, and then I was a nurse at the time, so of course I had like that side of me that's like, okay, go and meet with doctors and do all these tests and go and I did everything like
The traditional approach to
yeah.
diagnosing the
Yeah.
symptoms that you got.
because it has its like this expertise is good and helpful. I just believe not in all cases and not too quickly, and like let's not try to put a band-aid on everything people are going through and like give you some
Sure.
drugs to fix all your life problems, so but I did everything like MRIs and physio.
MRIs too.
Oh,
Wow.
I did like all the test battery.
And this takes time too, going through all this.
Yeah.
All these.
It was
here
about
in
a
Canada,
year.
It's not overnight.
No, you wait and you wait, so like while you wait you're in pain,
And
then
you're
I
insisting in this year long, like this. Well, the contrast, it
Yeah.
seems like is very, very, really, really far apart from, pre being mom and
Yeah.
then mom, and then all of a sudden, going down this hole of
Yeah.
physical
Yeah.
discomfort.
Yeah.
Like bad discomfort.
Yeah. And I had never experienced this like chronic pain
No.
or like I was just like,
You're a
what
young,
is
awesome
happening?
woman at the time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like waking up in pain and going to bed in pain and like not sleeping anymore. So everything was painful all of a sudden. And then no one could find anything. So until like at some point I start, like I would go into like medical offices, I'd cry and I'd be like, someone find what is wrong with me so we can
Right.
fix it. And then eventually after everything, they just like ended up telling me, well, you know, maybe it's arthritis, like juvenile arthritis that's
Sure.
beginning to like install itself in you, or maybe it's fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of these
Chronic
like
fatigue
big
syndrome.
words that they're like writing down in the papers, and I was like, really, like I have that, like I'm getting like a diagnosis right now. So now, and then of course you start being scared, like, oh, it's gonna get worse, and then you're gonna be stuck with this all your life. And then I remember like that one moment, I was in so much pain, like they prescribed me a few drugs amongst
Opioids, perhaps?
morphine.
Morphine, right. So-
Yeah, which is strong.
Which is, yes.
Yeah,
That's
in
what
that
they use
category.
to sedate and,
And I remember one day I was at home, and like my ex-husband at the time he would work on the evening shift. So I was alone with the kids. It was around like 10 p.m. I don't know. And they were all in bed, like everybody's sleeping. And I was in the living room and in so much pain. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take that morphine. And I took
Right.
like only, you know, the recommended dose, like
Sure.
1 or 2 tablets, whatever. So I took it and it hit me so strong. Like I'm not used to taking like medication or stuff.
yes.
And the only thing I remember is I woke up and my son was crying upstairs, and it was like 3 hours later. And I was like, and he was crying like someone who's been calling me for like not only 5 minutes, you know?
Right.
So I had like a wake up call, and I was like, man, I just like collapsed on the couch, you know? And I
Wow.
had like no more, I didn't know what was going on
And
anymore.
like you wake up to like, I don't have kids, but if I had a little boy,
Yeah.
and you wake up to and he's bawling his eyes out,
Yeah.
while you all of a sudden you just kind of came to.
No.
I would imagine it's like just your
Yeah.
body, nervous system's on fire. You're like, is the house on fire? What's
Oh
going
yeah,
on, right?
I was scared, and I
You're
was like,
very
so I
scared,
went,
yeah.
took care of him and everything, but that was like that was the moment where I was like, this is not possible. Like I'm not taking these. I'm not getting used to these either. Like I threw everything away. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work. So now I have to like figure out something else. And it was like, for me, it was a no, I'm not taking anything anymore. So I
Amazing.
remember on the next day, I was doing a MLM at the time, multi-level marketing company.
Right.
Network marketing.
Right.
Okay, so I
Affiliate
was doing
marketing,
this.
is that another word for it, perhaps? Affiliate marketing?
No.
Multi-level
It's
marketing.
similar, but
Okay.
you know when you have a product that you like represent, and then people buy it and get it every month. And
Right.
you have a team,
Yes.
and like you're like brand ambassadors.
Yes.
So I was doing this like because I was not working as a nurse anymore. I was like teaching here and there, but not full time. And this girl I was working with, she posted something on Facebook on the next day, and she was like, I just came back from UPW, and I had
Right.
never heard of Tony Robbins, like of the
Neither did I
event.
before that event. Yes.
So I saw her post, and like I read it, and she was saying like, oh my God, like my life just changed completely. It's never going to be the same. I cannot tell you more about this, but I got to walk on fire, and everybody should do that. And then I'm reading this, and and then she was mentioning limiting beliefs, and like what was happening in my head was limiting me so much. And then I had like my wake up call. I was like, okay, I'm going there. Like, I don't care. When's the next one? Okay, I
Right.
looked it up. We got to organize as a family for me to go. I was like, I'm going, like,
Yes.
bye. And then I booked everything, and I knew I was going. And I remember getting there at the event, and it's on day 1, right, that we do the fire walk.
I believe
We
it's,
met
I
on
want
day
to say it's
2.
end of day 2 or 3, because it's a 3-day event, I believe.
4.
It's a 4-day event. So
Yeah.
I believe actually day 3, because they really build you up and, help you completely reprogram the limiting beliefs and mindsets that hold you back from, definitely having the ability to either walk
to
or
go
not walk
on the
fire.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's day 2. I don't think it was
Okay.
day 3. But we'll look it up after.
Sure,
It doesn't
yeah.
matter. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is I remember that part that preceded the fire walking, where he had like this music on, and we had to write down things about ourselves, like about our inner dialogue, about our beliefs about ourselves. And I remember like the people crying everywhere all around me. And
Yes.
some people were like screaming, some were like banging like on
Yeah.
the walls and everything. And I was, as I was writing down, I couldn't even believe what I was writing. Like the whole
truth.
set of limiting beliefs that I
Yes.
had about myself, my life, who I was. And then there's this whole meditation after. And then I just like realized before the fire walk, I was like, man, I'm not living my life. Like I'm living the life of some girl that I don't know, like I don't really know who she is, but that's not my life. And then we had the walk on fire. And after that day, never have I had any back pain.
No way.
Never again. Never again. It's like I freed my head. I freed myself of all the weight I was carrying, like,
Wow.
and this is like a whole long topic, but I freed myself to the point that my physical body went like,
It was just like this
Okay.
knot just
Yeah.
loosened.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you're free to be really you.
And I
a
was
gift.
mind blown. I was like, even like to this day, sometimes like when I help my dad put his tires in the basement, or when my parents like see me training or something, they'll always say, hey, be careful your back. But I'm like, it's okay, you don't understand what I understand. But I know now that I don't have this issue anymore. Like my back was not, it was just a signal. Like my whole body, my whole soul was like, hey, something is wrong with you. Like,
Right.
look at your life. Like, look at everything. How are you? Who are you? What are you doing? What are you going to do? And
For me, like it really seems like the, moment when you woke up, your little boy's crying, and was like just a really extremely traumatizing moment.
Yeah.
So much
Yeah.
to the point that like it's such a massive pain in your life that it forces you to like just all of a sudden a switch to go on in your head where like, I never ever want to experience or tolerate this again.
Exactly.
For me, like there's moments in my life where I believe I've experienced those moments, like
Of
the
rock
pain
bottom.
of just
Yeah.
a rock bottom. And it's incredible when you come to look back and appreciate those moments as like gifts from the universe to really give you the opportunity to like either go down the fork in the
Yeah.
road where you keep going down and keep experiencing
Yeah.
that crap, or you look at it, we're like, okay, I'm gonna forge a new path
Yeah.
and never freaking look back. Right?
Exactly.
And just let it go and eventually
Exactly.
again come back to it and like find peace and appreciation with it.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Heal, right?
Heal.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we need to go through like that amount of suffering to
Right.
unleash, but I believe that a lot of us need to get there
Yes.
in order to reflect and be like, hey, something needs to change, And I think at that time I was just like, I was finally ready. I had had red flags in the past of like, hey, I don't really feel that good in that situation, and that work, I'm not sure, and all of this, but I never really tuned in. And now it was like, well, okay, you have to do something because now you're like
Yes.
paralyzed,
Yeah. You just nailed a really interesting thing for myself that I can really relate to experiencing before, that Tony Robbins event, was that I call it, there's a difference between hearing and listening, especially to like from the place of like what your heart is saying or like what
Yeah.
the universe is speaking to you. And, a lot of us like, at some point or other, or maybe we're still there, where there's parts of your life that you're doing things that, are just not aligned with your nature or what you really, your soul purpose is, or
Yeah.
just in general, really what you want to be doing, right? The things
Yeah.
that like genuinely, make you happy. And
Yeah.
the symptoms of that is just really, it's like the stress. Maybe it's like, your back is like all of a sudden, thrown out, or you just
Yeah.
don't have the energy to hang out with the kids or
Absolutely.
whatever it is, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's incredible that when we don't hear, those things that are going on in our body,
Yeah.
and also identify the implications that has for like, the relationships that you have around you, how you are doing
Yeah.
physically,
For sure.
spirituality, how you doing at work,
For
right? That's a
sure.
big one where it really flows
Yeah.
into work. It's only when we choose to listen to that
Yeah.
and come to the raw truth
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
and then take action. And that's where I'm
Yeah.
going with like hearing is that you hear it, but you're not doing anything about it. Listening is you heard it and then you take action.
That's so true.
And the one thing I'm really happy that we finally got to talk about it was that the big thing for you, I believe, where that moment with the kid, you know, your little boy, and he's crying, you're just like, oh man, I never want to
Yeah.
tolerate this. And you started, you know, looking for like that new thing. And it was shortly a few days after, it's like the universe knew, hey, I'm going to give you an option of an answer.
Yeah.
And the answer was, though, something where you really had to dig deep and take extreme action towards embracing and going forward into that answer. Right?
So true.
Because, like, you know, you're an incredibly dedicated supermom, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got to leave my family behind and I got to put myself first, which you've been, you know, leading up to it. It sounds like you weren't really doing the
Not
best job of
doing
it.
it. Yeah, exactly.
And then all of a sudden it's like, you know, by doing and investing yourself first
Yeah.
and going to that event, you were gifted like the whole new discovery of all these blind spots
Yeah.
in our life, in your
And
life.
it's so true, like what you're saying, the part that it's like when someone tells you something, you know, I think this, and then you're just like listening, but you're not really wanting to go there.
Sure.
And that part of like getting honest with yourself, like you've been through that too, like with your
Yes.
lifestyle and everything. And I remember like the first minutes where we had like these books, right?
Yes.
And I did not know what to write. And then at some point I was like, wait, stop bullshitting yourself.
Yes.
Like, stop. But what's wrong? You know something's wrong. Do you feel like you're at the top of your life experience? No. Do you feel like as a mom, you're at the top? No. Do you feel like everything, like financially, your career, your
Yes.
relationship, like, I had that moment where like, there's a blank page. And I know everything is fine. And then I was like, no, like, stop bullshitting, like, be honest. And it's the same thing. Like, some people go to these events and they keep going and going and
Yes.
going because they go and they don't really like build up that courage to be like, okay, let me look at my freaking life like once and for all, like what's going on? What am I doing wrong? What's, you
Yes.
know, what I believe in?
Yes.
And
You know, for myself, like looking back now at those amazing events, and then also really, you know, doing that was like the beginning for me of like the incredible journey of like, you know, self-education, self-study, and really diving into like, call it the topic of self-help, right? And it's such a term right now that has such like a negative connotation.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't. It's really one,
Yeah.
in my opinion, one of the things that's one of the biggest things missing from like our formal education system was also teaching you, okay, well now you're done school, how do you help yourself,
Yeah.
right? Where do you start next?
Exactly.
And the one thing I really discovered through like, you know, self-education and mindset and psychology was this one teaching by this really incredible guy named Garrett J. White. And he has this program called Wake Up Warrior. And Wake Up Warrior really teaches men and women, you know, how to live life by a code. And a big part of the code, its foundational principle, is you got to live and embrace full, real, raw truth. And I think if at these events, these, you know, Tony Robbins event, a really big opportunity is for them to invest more time, you know, for people to really understand the meaning of what truth is to yourself. So that way, when you have like that blank page and you're going to, you know, dive into the exercise of studying
Yeah.
and coming to a newfound appreciation, revelation about yourself,
Yeah.
you can do a far more better job of it, right?
Absolutely.
But for us, like, I believe we really took in that event, you know, when day one they tell you, you have to play full out.
All out, yeah.
If
it
you're gonna get the
stuck
most
with
for
me
this.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're very, I would imagine like myself, like you're a very, very competitive person.
Yeah, like my ego.
Yes, my
Always
ego.
like, no.
Same here. And so
I
I'm like,
know.
okay, I'm going to be out of these 10,000 people, the person who plays all out, all out.
I know,
You know, I'm
I
going to be
know.
the top 10.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
know.
the benefit of like, you know, in any part of life when like we invest, you know, you can't spread yourself too thin, but like whatever it is you're going to do and you're actually going to do it to like go all in and do it
Yeah,
110% to get the
absolutely.
most out of it, right?
Yeah, because imagine like coming back. I remember like coming back from Florida on the plane, and I was fueled like no other moment in my life. Like
Yes.
the fuel of everything's gonna be different. But I imagine like coming back and knowing you did not like do everything you could to like work through your things and be
Right.
real with yourself. And
Right.
all these questions they ask, and then you have to open up with total strangers about like, what's your biggest flaw? What's one thing you're not proud of in the last year?
Yes.
But like we have to like get through this part to get to the other part. And the other part was like the energy that was in the room, and like Tony's energy. And well, first I related with him so much. I was like, oh, I found what I want to do. Because like when he mentioned I don't like seeing people suffer. That's where
Yes.
I had my aha moment of, because for me, it's like we only get one shot at life. Like we only get
Totally.
one shot. And I'm like, I did not before really live by that motto of like, you're like, we have a timer on top of our head and we
Sure.
don't even know, like, you know, like this,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that, how do we call it? The sand that drops?
Yeah, the hourglass.
The
The
hourglass,
hourglass
yeah.
timer, right?
So we have this on top of our head and we don't know, like we cannot see it. So we don't know what amount of time is left, and all the suffering part of it, like the people suffering and getting, like being held back by what you've been through as a kid, what you've been taught, and you had no money as a kid, or you were beaten up, like all these hard things that really
You learn
mess up
some.
with people.
Everyone gets really real and raw, and
Yeah.
you know, like
The
just
stories
puts
you
it out there,
hear.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like you're not alone. Like we've all
No.
been through some stuff.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
But it's that if we don't come to terms with it,
Yeah.
you know, and really find peace and forgiveness with it, are you only then free, you know,
Oh,
to
yeah,
really
for
move
sure,
forward,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah, and it's amazing how that event and those events are really great with helping people, like really, especially myself, like unfold into like this much needed discovery. If
Yeah.
you're gonna, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Step one is you got to discover, find peace, forgiveness,
Yeah.
appreciation.
Yeah.
And then it's like your real journey starts forward of like, you know, the new version
Absolutely.
2.0 of you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like the one of the biggest moments of my life, and I will always, like, Tony
Me
Robbins
too.
has marked, you know, I'll
Me
always
too.
have major respect for him.
Yes.
And even like sometimes I don't read that much what he does now, but it's still, he always comes to my mind when I think of my story. And I remember being around this energy that I did not know it existed, and this natural high, and this, you know, high on love,
State.
and yeah, the state of feeling high naturally, like, and just like excited with life, and just realizing like, okay, I woke up today and that's a gift.
You get to
Like
wake
it's
up.
a gift. Yeah, I got to wake up,
Yes.
and now I can walk. I can put one feet like after the other, and like all of this energy that I touched like really showed me something else, opposite of what I was used to, like growing up and everything, of like this
Yes.
kind of more. And when I talk about this, it's with so much love and so much respect, and I adore my family, and our relationship is, we have a great relationship, and we just like learned to accept each other with the way we all think. But I know that I grew up in this environment where things were hard, and you have to get used to it being like this,
Yes.
and this is life, you know, and
Sure.
just like, you know, a lot of like heaviness. And then I finally like connected with another energy, an energy of like, hey, I'm waking up today and I get to create like whatever magic I want to create.
Right.
And in one eye contact you can engage something with someone, or something life changing, and then build a new connection, and
Profound
then
connection.
yeah, profound connection, and then see new opportunities coming your way, and then all of that energy. So then I was like, okay, I'm bringing back like my healed self, and I'm also bringing back home me carrying this new energy, and then I'm gonna stay
Yes.
with that energy like forever now. I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I'm gonna stay, I'm gonna remain in that state, and then whoever wants to hop into that state with me, well, let's do it. And whether it's at the grocery store, or whether it's in the street, or
Sure.
wherever like I am. So yeah, so that's when I knew like I came back healed, and I also came back with my purpose like redefined, because like as a nurse, I enjoy it to a certain point, and I was good at it, because it's, you know, I kind of think
you
that
were
I'm
great at
doing
being a
the same
nurse.
thing but differently. Like I was taking care of people. I
Yeah.
was like you know, trying to bring light in every room that I'd go, and I would laugh
Yes.
with them. And then, you know, when you're showering like that 80-year-old man who's lost all his dignity, so
Right.
like let's have like laugh, and just, I was doing this, but it was, I had to go beyond that. And when I experienced it myself, and when I realized like, holy shit, we're driven by our programs, like the programs we have integrated ever since we're in the womb. And then we're building our life and creating our identity based on these programs, but what if you can change these programs? You know,
Yes.
what if they're not serving you? So I was like so mind blown with all of this that when I came back, I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep helping people, but not there. Okay, I have to do something else. Like I have to go deeper. I have to go understand like how this works.
And that was like one of the amazing revelations for me at that Unleash the Power Within event, the Tony Robbins event, was really understanding and like it being completely brought up that like my blind spot was I just wasn't aware of like the stories that I'm telling myself in my head of the facts. But also though, like that programming that's creating that story, it's like, what was its origination?
Exactly.
And also though too, it's like, you're absolutely right, where it's like, okay, now that like you're aware of this and you're aware of like, okay, well this story of this facts is causing me to have this emotion, which is likely motivating or demotivating me to move forward or treat others however they're supposed to be treated. And the more like, I believe because I played full out in that event, and like that was like the beginning and foundational start of where I really started the transformational journey of like reshaping, remapping, reprogramming, the stories and beliefs and and things that are going on in my head. I really trained a muscle in my brain to like really become hyper aware in every moment.
And it is
what
a muscle,
it is,
right?
What it is that I'm experiencing. And is that story I'm having of that experience the one that's going to best serve me to where I really want to be, the results I really want to get, and how I really want to feel, and how the relationships are that I really want to have with the people that are in my life, right? And it was just so like holy shit. It was a monumental moment, and that occurred for me. I remember like that moment of like holy shit awakening for me occurred like within like the first hour or two of being at the UPW event on day one, where I was sitting in the crowd and I really treated myself like one of those like upgraded tickets where you can sit really, really close and really
I was in the front too.
I
was like, no, I'm not gonna stay like back.
I want to treat myself like a VIP because I always try to treat myself like a person of significance, right? And also I figured maybe if I'm sitting more closer, maybe I'm going to be meeting really, really more incredible, committed into this people, and it's so incredible. Like it paid off. We met there, right? And so that moment, it was like 2 hours in, and I was watching Tony Robbins off to the side. He's now in the middle because he goes into the audience as and talks with his his mic and stuff like that. And he's like, literally, when he looks at you, it's like he can like just like it's like almost God coming through him. It's like he reaches in and like just connects with you from like the heart. You know? Well, I remember just kind of looking around, and I was just like, I've always been a really ambitious man, right? I'm really, really ambitious since I was a young kid. I always had big dreams to do something big with regards to whatever I was doing. And I look around, I was just like, I had this massive moment of deja vu, like I had been there already before. And that was right after that moment of deja vu where I was just like, I was just so captivated and inspired, where I'm like, it's possible to be, one man speaking in an audience and just to be completely adding so much massive value.
Exactly.
And transformational energy and motivation and awakening to people that like you were missing when you were being a nurse. It was like you're helping people, but it's not like it's not connecting with your heart, right? Where I hit that moment of deja vu was like, for me, I'm like, I want to have my own stage one day and help people because of just all the stuff that like he was teaching, and like how much of a blind spot it was for me. But I realized like this was like the missing piece of the puzzle that like why I kept getting inconsistent results in my life, why I would build stuff up and I would burn it all down, and I would get it all. Then I'd be like, WTF, like, and it was a long process, like to get to like, for me to get to this point. But
for sure.
I never ever gave up on that process. And like, before this moment, like, since that event, there's been some definitely.
And you've had your hardships.
I've had some freaking real moments.
I know.
Like it was like during COVID, for example. I fell into a habit of like, sedating with drugs and alcohol. That was not freaking cool.
Bump on the road.
Yeah, it's like there was a, leaving the corporate world, right, to discover my own thing. And but it was crazy. Like, I have this philosophy that I say, because I never gave up on myself is why God never gave up on me.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And again, it's like I never gave up on that one moment of inspirational, like, holy cow,
Exactly.
that like this is
You
where
were
my
hanging
purpose is,
on
this is where
to
I
it.
want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've never gave up on it. And it's you only fail when you quit, right?
And I love that, you're just, because when your eyes open, like
Yeah.
when we become aware, we cannot unbecome aware.
You can't.
So to expect having the hardships and like no one's perfect. Like
No.
we're not saying, oh, hey, we know how the subconscious mind works, so we've got it all figured
Yeah.
out. And
Well, that's how I was
it's always
before. I was like, I
easy.
know this
Yeah,
stuff.
I
No.
know.
No.
But then knowing that, like, yeah, you'll have these times where it's hard. You'll have these times where we get back into our old patterns.
Yes.
We'll get back into self-sabotage
Yes.
or doubting ourselves or whatever it is, addiction, anything.
Yes.
We're all human beings. Like we exist like with our strengths, we exist with our flaws, we have our stories, we have sometimes these programs that creep in. But once you're aware, you like switch it up really quickly. So even if you fall, you get back, but it's
Yes.
different. Like I know you know what I mean, but
I know
you don't
yes.
stay stuck. Like even when we were having conversations or being on the phone and talking about it, it's like when we say like I fucked up, like we know.
Oh, yeah.
We know what we're into. We know, like when I would tell you, I'm not really training anymore. Like I know that's not good. I know like
Sure.
that's not what I want. Or
Yes.
you when you're
when
with
I
the
fall
drugs
back
and
into
everything. It's like
Oh,
so you're
yeah.
like, yeah, I know what I need to do to change. Like
Yeah.
it's okay. I'm aware. You're not in that old state of like being numb, like by everything going on,
Yeah, the reason why I say I know is because when you become awakened, right? Like there's terms out there like it's like you got red pilled or whatever it is, whatever
Out
it
of
is,
the
right?
matrix.
Yeah, but like your actual awakening to like who you really are and why
Yeah.
you really are,
Yeah.
who you are, and if from that moment you're absolutely right. I believe like it's almost impossible to like prevent yourself from like diving more into the rabbit hole of like embracing all that knowledge to like really understanding yourself.
Yeah.
But from that beginning in that process, when and if we slip, when and if, we, make a decision that is inconsistent with, who we now know as
Yeah.
our identity, but
Yeah.
really our true potential, future self identity.
Exactly.
We're so much more better equipped.
Yeah.
Right. To like really conquer the moment.
Recognize and deal with
find,
it. Yeah.
Find the lesson from it.
Yeah.
Find the self-love, the ability to be able to like, look yourself actually in the mirror in the morning and be like, I love myself.
Yeah, for sure. I love myself despite like all of what can happen, and sometimes I'm not good and sometimes I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Like exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then doing that is, we were talking earlier about it, like when I say I really try to live my life as if it was my last day.
I like that.
But doing that, like what you just described, is saving us time.
Yes.
Time wasted on like, just ruminating everything and like, of course I was going to do that. And of course I was going to fail. Like, that's who I am. That's what
Yes.
I tend to do. That's what I always do. They know I do this. Like, like all of this that people get consumed into daily is like,
Yes.
this is the back office that like sometimes creep in, and then you're like, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, one of the things that you just kind of we were just kind of touching on is that like you absolutely, one of the things I think there's two things we probably have in common, right? All of us, and for anyone watching the show, is one is that we all have 24 hours in a day, and at some point, our spirit, we're going to depart this earth and go to the here thereafter.
exactly.
And one of the things that like for me, I don't know if it was before or after the Tony Robbins event, but I really, really came to really appreciate time. Now more than ever, especially being like an entrepreneur and trying to, launch a show that, helps people and, go after the things that like I know are like my sole purpose and I'm really, really passionate about,
Yeah.
is I was like, maybe I was journaling one day, but it came to me where I realized I no longer have time to spend. I only have time to invest.
Yeah.
And the more extreme you can be with following that whole philosophy of life and really imprinting it like that backdoor programming of like, version 2.0 of who you are.
Exactly.
It's for me, that was really when like different results really, really started happening.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really believe is that like, that's like something that you've really, taken to heart when like you're like, okay, it's like you come back home from the Tony Robbins event, you come into this new profound energy and like your profound commitment to like
Yeah.
that new energy, that new state. Where you start, I remember like you were talking, it's like you were still working as an RPN, but I remember us having conversations. You were like, Chris, like this just is not my mojo anymore. Like, this is not aligning with my truth and who I am.
Exactly.
And it was incredible. Like I'm like, you know, being a mom of 3 kids, you know, managing all that, but still finding time to invest, you know, at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day when things are
Yeah.
settled, you know, it goes to show you like your dedication to like that path forward to yourself and where it took you, you know, moving it ahead into,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that was a belief to change also, you know, when we wrote down these things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us limit ourselves. Like, if you're a mom, you're a mom.
Sure.
If you're a nurse, you're a nurse. You have to work all the time. If you're whatever, like, we limit ourselves thinking it has to go one way. Like, a lot of people will say,
Yes,
have
absolutely.
these sayings like,
Sure.
well, you know, I'm a mom, like there's no time for nothing. But no,
Yeah.
no. People have time to scroll on their cell phone like
That
all
is,
day long.
yes,
And
that
then
is like the epitome of like what we learned at UPW is a limiting belief.
Exactly.
All these little things that like
Limiting
we are
beliefs.
subconscious
Yeah.
statements to ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I realized with
They're not good
time,
for
I'm
you.
like, the reason why I was unhappy and the reason why I was not happy with my life is I settled. I had settled and I
Yeah.
was like, no, I want to have it all. Because I have the part of me that enjoys being a mom. Like, it was one of my callings, like to be
Sure.
a mom. I enjoy taking care of my kids. I enjoy
Yes.
playing with them. I enjoy going to the movies with them. I enjoy baking muffins for them. But at some point, baking muffins like every single day, I kind of felt like I was losing myself. I'm like,
Sure.
okay, no, my life cannot be only about gardening and
Yeah.
baking muffins. Like, I have something else in
Yeah.
me. So I realized, like, okay, I'm a young spirit. Like, I love to. I don't like. I feel like I'm a teenager. Like,
Me too.
all
I
the
still
time,
feel
I'm like, oh,
I'm
I'm
kind of
like-
in my mid-20s
yeah,
still. Yeah.
exactly. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm always full of energy. I'm a yes person. Like, tell me, oh, do you
Sure.
think we should go run a marathon? Okay,
Yes.
let's do it. Like, so I have that side of me. I have the side of me that enjoys being by myself. Like, sometimes even my kids, I'm like, you guys are too
have
loud.
your
Like,
kid
I
time.
need to like go on a vacation. Like, you know. And I have the part of me that loves. I love working. I love, like, I can stay like up at night, like working on my things.
Yes.
And then I can want to have a day off, and then I can go to that kid's party. And then I have all these versions of me that exist. And I was like, hey, I don't need to give up any of that. So I can like build something where I can have fun, I can enjoy my life, I can offer like the best life for my kids, I can work on making my own money, I can inspire people at the same time and help them like free themselves. So I stopped telling myself, well, you have kids, so don't work too much. No, not true. I can be intentional with my life.
Right.
So sometimes they'll say, you're working a lot this week. Yeah, I'm working
Yeah.
a lot, like that. Sometimes we have to work a lot and I choose to work a lot and I love my work. So it's teachings, right? I want them to know, like, it's okay. Like, you're still a good person if some month out of the year you maybe neglect your relationship a little bit because you have to. No, but we go through seasons. Like, we cannot be
Yes.
perfectly balanced.
No,
And you're a good mom if you tell your kids at some point that you're tired and you need to go with your boyfriend or you know somewhere only the two of you. Like,
Right.
you're still a good person. Like, do this and come back and be happy. And you know what, you want to go record a podcast and go on a business trip and you guys
Yes.
are going to go to your grandparents. Well, I love you and this is also who I am.
Yes.
And you, when you grow up, if you have kids, I want you to do that. I don't want you to grow up and being like, you know, I see so many people like they're snapping all the time and they're
You
and
see it
then
in the
I
grocery.
see this.
It's like the grocery store or the mall or the convenience store.
Yeah.
And it's just you absolutely see those snap moments with the parent and the little guy or the little kid. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you see when
Yeah.
I see that, like, and I see it like all the time in my office and with people, when you get to that point where you're like out of yourself and irritability gets the
knot,
best out
you
of
know,
you,
it's
it's
just-
just you're just not happy with the life you're living.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's a fail. It doesn't mean you need to burn everything down and run away. There's something that's not going on like in a good way for you. There's something you need to pay attention to.
And that takes me back to like what something I want to really give you a compliment for is that from that moment of like that Tony Robbins event when you started, you began your discovery of really self-studying, what's going on in the back office of your mind, right? And what that back office is ordering or instructing,
Yeah.
yourself and the actions that you're
Yeah.
taking, is that through you not giving up on that, you really, really, I believe, developed a really great ability of like, you hear what's going on in your heart, but then I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to take action on it, And I believe that's like a really big gap for a lot of people out there, is to just start really giving yourself a second to stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
What is my heart telling me in this moment?
Exactly.
And especially a lot of times it's going to tell you probably something that you need to invest and do for yourself. But to find peace and ease and permission for yourself to invest what your heart's telling you to do for you.
Yeah, so true.
You remember at the Tony Robbins event, he was, talking a lot to the audience about, and one of the big things the audience had a lot in common was that they're very much givers. They put other people before themselves. They want to people please,
Yeah.
right? And a big symptom of that issue for all these people was that they're not getting the results that they want in their life. They're experiencing heartache, stress, the burnout, and stuff like that. And the one thing that you've really, become amazing at too is, like you've said, you've come up with the identification that these limiting beliefs of saying, well, well, mom, I shouldn't have to do, or I'm not going to do that, or whatever else. You completely kicked out that bullshit story and said, no, I'm going to do all these things I got to do. And that's actually going to invest in myself. That's going to put myself forward first. And through me investing more in myself, I'll be able to be the better super mom, for my kids. And I'll naturally grow into this more amazing woman that really the world actually deserves from me.
Yeah. And I think like you get better at doing this, right? Like
and
you
that's
also know
yes.
when you tune into your
it's a muscle.
soul.
I think the more we do it,
exactly.
like meditation on a daily basis, I believe now more than ever, it's now this more recognized and accepted thing, but the more we discipline ourselves to take that 5-10 minutes, I think, first thing in the morning, before you actually go downstairs to invest in the things that you're going to do in the day, like your 9 to 5. And break whatever wavelength that your body programmer was operating on.
Yeah, exactly.
And just change that energy, that frequency, that
right off.
Yeah,
like when
that
you wake
vibe,
up.
right? That you're on.
Yeah.
And put it into one that, like Tony Robbins says, like the words like gratitude, appreciation, love.
Tuning into like higher frequencies.
Yeah, your higher frequencies, right? Putting that back office, where everyone's now got a coffee and they're in a good mood.
Absolutely.
Well, we're gonna like go forward and tackle the day from that place, right? And you've really gotten amazing at, that's why you're doing so great, as you're an expert at that.
I think I came to understand something that a lot of people don't know yet or have yet to discover, but that whole thing, let's say about meditation in the morning, like we go and listen to what people tell us to do, but when you dig deeper, when you wake up, like your brain waves, they're in a different mode than when you're activated. Like let's say you and I are speaking right now, we're aware, we're very much into our conscious mind and our brain waves are quite active. As soon as you wake up and right before we fall asleep, this is where we experience a state that's very similar to trance.
Right.
Which is like when your brain waves, they go slower and it's really smoother. And that's a state where it's a very powerful tiny window that we have.
Right.
In which our subconscious mind is like a sponge, so it's really listening to everything we're suggesting to it or telling it. That's why we tell kids, study right before you go to bed. You've ever heard that? Like, study. You want to remember your words for tomorrow by heart, whatever. Pick your paper and right before you go to bed, read it one last time, because the things that we read and listen to and feed our mind with right before going to bed and right when we wake up, it's like it gets into your subconscious mind like straight pipe. Like, no, it's not being blocked by your critical faculty that's super awake because you're in that state. So with time, I was like, okay, I want to know how to bring people into that state, even in the middle of the day. So that was the essence of it. But that's why it's true that when you meditate, when you wake up, like it changes everything. Because if you put like two people next to each other, one person wakes up and phone and email and who needs me and what problem did I not resolve yesterday? And then your program, they go like full on mode. They're like,
The
okay,
body
let's
resorts
go.
into that.
Yeah.
It goes
So
into that state, right?
how can you even aspire to like listen to your inner voice or to what your soul
Right.
wants from you if
Right.
you wake up in that tornado of like this is like wake up. So like that,
Starting your day
Yeah.
with that self check-in,
Yeah.
that stop and smell the roses moment.
yeah, I like that way of saying it. Yeah, it's
I like
so
roses.
true.
Roses are cool. But you're right. Like from what I'm hearing is that when we take that moment, as early as we can in the morning, because none of the things that have like really transpired and happened that really flick on and like really turn on the heat on your conscious
Yeah.
mind. The subconscious mind is like this really relaxed, nice, calm place.
Such a nice flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
You
such
just
a nice
mentioned it
flow.
and I'm like,
oh yeah. I'm like, we're gonna
Let's
take
go
5
into
here. We're just
trance.
gonna like have a little nap. But
Yeah.
you're right. I believe
Yeah.
that when and if we take that moment in that place of just beautifulness and love, and you just like take a big breath from like your belly,
yeah.
and you dive into like just, okay, what is my heart telling me right
Yeah.
now? You know?
And then all the answers you're looking for. When
Yeah.
we look outside of us for so many things, like we need people to help us
I know.
decide, what should I do with this? Should I quit my job? Should I have another kid? Should I have a dog? Should
Sure.
I leave my boyfriend? Like all of these things that we ask other people, we're just so used to being in a noisy environment.
Yes.
Because if
Go,
I
go, go
tell
as
you,
soon as you
what's
get
your
up the alarm
first
clock stuff.
answer? Yeah,
Right.
if I tell you, you ask me that question, okay,
Yeah.
what's your first answer? Like before your ego like
Sure.
pops and before like your conscious mind goes, because our conscious mind is always like blah, 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 like all the time, like, are you sure you're gonna do this? No, maybe not. And then once this speech is activated, it's really hard to get out of it because
That's
it's
right.
really convincing.
It really
like
is.
the inner voice is like really convincing, but
Yeah.
the thing is we're not like running away from we're not like 2,000 years before. We're not, sometimes you do not need to survive. You just,
Sure.
so we have evolved, but our brain is still like a brain that wants you to survive
Yeah.
first and foremost. That's it. So if you feel fear, oh no, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe that's like, think about it. And then the inner voice starts. But all these answers, like we have them inside. Like
like
if
that.
you can just like stop
really
and
like that.
breathe and meditate, you'll know if you have to quit your job. You don't need to ask me or you
Right.
or your sister or your
Right.
mom, It's just like we're used to noise and we're in a society people, young kids, everybody, like the phones, the tablets, the TV. Like
Yes.
I don't have TV. I don't
All
have
these
the
things that like
news.
keep you from actually having a moment for yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
And it fills your head like people don't know how important it is to like pay attention to what you're listening to and what you're hearing.
Oh,
like
yeah.
what
That's
you know
a
what
big one.
kind
What you're
of
seeing
shows
and
are you
doom
watching? What are
scrolling
you
on.
scrolling now? And this is it for everything. Like the news, porn, all the crazy like stimulations that are out there,
Right.
and then they just keep us trapped. And
Yes.
just like zzz,
It
and
keeps
disconnected.
I like, again, like going back to like, the subconscious state, where you're aware of it, but you're existing in it because like you
Yeah.
put and chose yourself into it.
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza, if anyone
Yeah.
who has never heard of him, he's I believe, one of the world's leading experts
Oh, yeah.
in,
Yeah.
in the incredible benefits of like what meditation and the transformational healing that it could really start. And I'm going to probably butcher the explanation of this, but in short, it's like mind
feel
over
you.
body.
And every time I try to explain his work, I'm like, hey, it's not that. Okay,
Yeah.
read the book, but let's.
Yeah, but in short, it's like the body has its own programming. That, for
Yeah.
example, it's like your alarm clock goes off in the morning. The body's like been programmed just to like get up.
Yeah.
Phone rings, the same thing. It's and then all of a sudden, it's like your body is with its mind now, all in like this excited, unstable in frequency with regards to like what mindset you're on and stuff like that. And it really prevents you from being like outside the box to take a look what's going inside the box with those stories.
Exactly.
And then going back to like pairing this with like what we learned at Tony Robbins' event, You Unleash the Power Within. It's the stories that we tell ourselves in the very moment which result in how you're feeling.
Yeah.
But from that place of story and feeling results in the actions and decisions, the
Yeah.
influence of the decisions that you're going to take, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why it's so critical that if you cement like that really zen, powerful, peaceful, loving state in the beginning of a day, when and if anything comes that like is going to trigger you, that maybe instead of like, you saying no to the cookies or no to the McDonald's or whatever it is, or alcohol or drugs or whatever it is, well, if and when you start your day on that frequency of like more being strongly founded, I believe you're just far more set up for success
So
to
true.
conquer those moments during the day,
So
to
true.
be your better self,
Yeah.
right?
Like
And to
we're
be
so
consistent
powerful.
with yourself.
So
Yeah,
true.
it's really incredible, like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
we were taught that at that event. And like it's just one of the reasons why I wanted to start the show is I wanted to like dive into the topics that like I never learned in school, right? Like
Yeah.
in high school, it was crazy because like in high school, like I graduated with like a 56 or 57% average, and maybe there will be another episode where I can talk as the whys of that.
Yeah.
But then it's like college, first year college, I tried to become an accountant, right? And I failed first year college, second semester, first year accounting, and I'm trying to become a chartered professional accountant.
Yeah.
Summer school, I take it, and then all of a sudden I learned, second year college, all the way throughout your university, how to really actually do homework and do study and stuff like that. I really, again, because I'm a really competitive person, I went like all out. And also I'm not really that much of a smart guy. It's where I have to like invest twice the amount of time
Yeah,
to
of
learn
someone else. I know.
of what someone
I
else
know.
does. But like I
Yeah.
still loved it, and it built like an amazing muscle of like being disciplined and being able to do
Yeah,
those
I can
extra
relate to
hours
that.
and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But it was crazy. It was like we never ever were taught like these principles and philosophies and
Basics.
self-identifications
Yeah.
of like you said,
Yeah.
I love your term, like what's going on in the back office of your mind that's
Yeah.
influencing you and how you're being in the outside
Yeah.
world. Yeah, it's been like just something, one of the big reasons too why I wanted to create my own stage was like my discovery of that was like so profound
Needs
that
to
I'm like,
be heard.
everyone needs to know this
I
stuff,
know, I know.
because it just has such a strong ability to
Yeah.
alleviate suffering, to gift you the opportunity that we all deserve to unfold into the experience of going after what you believe your true potential is.
Yeah.
You know?
And like not leaving this earth, not knowing what you could have been and
Yeah.
what you could have done. Like that was
I
one of
just
my
don't wanna
biggest fears.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
like from that event, like I'm so extreme with what I'm going after because of I know.
I know I've came to know you.
Thank you. But I just don't want to like when I'm like, that 80-year-old man and the nurse is showering me. I'm
You're
sorry.
gonna think about that moment, like,
I just don't wanna
what
be,
did I do with my life?
Yeah, like, I don't wanna
At least
be-
if you have great memories
Yeah.
during that moment, like, that
I
was a
don't-
good one, like
yeah.
a good ride.
I don't want to experience any of that regret later on in
I
life.
know.
Like, and it's,
I know.
for those like, who gain the courage, that self-permission to really go big and go after what you want, like there is sacrifices.
Oh yeah.
There is like those,
Choose your heart.
yeah, those forks
Yeah.
in the road where I've experienced them many times now in life, I believe, where it's like you can take the left way or the right way.
Yeah.
The left way is the easy way.
Yeah.
The right way is the hard way, and it's gonna be fucking hard
Yeah.
going down that path.
Yeah.
But in the end, like there is the most building up yourself, the most value that you're gonna get from yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's just like like that's like the higher self path.
Yeah.
That is like the more we make those decisions and commit to them, it's like a muscle. It's like you'd be more comfortable making like taking the
Absolutely.
sacrifices and going after and committing to it
Absolutely.
and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like just I'm not.
Well, it
I
changes,
don't want
like
any
it's,
regrets.
for me, like this also fuels like my daily life. I'm like, some people don't know that. Like some people will be hit by like the end of their life and be like,
Yeah.
and as a nurse, you get to see people die too. Like I witnessed that a lot of time. I even before being a nurse, I was I don't know how it's called.
Like a care worker in like an old age home or something.
Kind
like
of that.
Sure.
Yeah, care worker.
Yeah.
Like that when people die, you just like get their body all
Oh, right.
ready to go to the morgue and
Yeah.
everything. And I remember like this always hit me like so much. And the people right before they die, it's like they want to desperately say sorry to someone
Sure.
in their life. They want to desperately make a call. They mention like, I stayed in that job for so long and I knew I could do more and I could do better. And I was always like another like trauma of thinking, oh no, I don't want to, like, I don't care if I screw up, maybe I don't care if my path is unconventional, I don't care if I get to start again like 20 times, whatever, but at least I want to know that like every time I get a whisper of something, like a whisper of,
Yeah, what the
hey,
heart's
that's not
saying.
who you are, like remember who you are, like
Right.
like I want to listen to it and be like, okay, just be happy, like go get that life you deserve.
Sure.
And especially help people
Yes.
go towards that also, like why so much suffering. And we talked about that earlier, like embracing suffering. It's
Yes.
so important, not
It,
expecting life to be all unicorns
yeah,
and you're always going to be
rainbows,
happy, you're
roses.
always, yeah, you're
Yeah.
always like, it's not that, but it's just, I think there's a difference, and you can comment on that after, like
Sure.
if you understand what I mean.
I
But
do.
I think there's a difference between embracing the light in the dark, in the
Yes.
hard days, in the easy days, in the good moods, in the bad moods, or settling for a life where you're always grumpy and unhappy and you know how it is, and not having quality relationships, not knowing what your purpose is, not having like some time to maintain your health, your physical health, your mental health, like not
Yes.
laughing, not dancing, not do,
Yeah.
like a lot of people live in like autopilot of like
Yes.
a life I think they hate and they need to escape from,
Sure.
drinking and going to
Yeah.
Cuba
The
with all their friends and
sedating
getting
from
wasted and coming
really your
back.
true self. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate you bringing that one point up, and I was mentioning so, for the audience, like where I learn a lot of stuff too. If it's not like through reading amazing books, going to amazing conferences, is like my social media is very very wired for like motivation and inspiration, success habits, and success can be,
Yeah.
I believe, a definition that's just the definition that you interpret as success, right? But it was amazing. Like actually, for the first time, like I came across a reel that was by Stephen Colbert, and he was in an interview, and I guess Stephen had made a comment about something in public or whatever that was like a pretty deep life philosophy, and it was to what you were saying, where he was like, one of the biggest gifts of life is that not just that we get to embrace and enjoy all the amazing, beautiful parts of it, but equally we get to suffer.
Yeah.
And it's one of these profound purposes of life. And he's like, if you want to, saying in different words, I believe, if you want to get like the most out of your life, it's to really embrace the appreciation, the love, the gratitude for when you're in the trenches, for when you're suffering,
Yeah.
for when you are really holy shit down and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, that's like one thing that I've really gotten great at when I started, and embarked on like this endeavor of an adventure of being an entrepreneur, right? Was there's thick and thin. And that Tony Robbins event really helped me to be a realistic optimist of any of the things that, we're experiencing, and to always really be for other people like that beacon in the night when it's a stormy, shitty time.
Yeah.
I'll just be that little beacon right there in
Yeah.
the distance, being like, well, if you just come with me, I'll help you see the better side.
Exactly.
There's this amazing guy named Lewis Howes. He's like, he's
like
really, really,
him.
he's been a big inspiration for my show. He says you really just got to dig deep and find the win-win in things.
Yeah.
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 Um,
It's so good, and it would, yeah, if like take for people to like take time and reconsider, like, what do you expect life to be?
Yeah.
Because if we're resisting all the time, like our soul, and something like I read a book that like helped me a lot also. It's Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul. I don't know if
Everyone's
you've heard
been
about
mentioning
it.
this book.
Yeah.
It was Rob, who we
Yeah.
met earlier today.
Yeah.
He's mentioned this book, and there's a few other people. Now, I don't believe I've read it, but I've heard some things about it. Yeah.
It really, like, it wasn't a challenging time of my life, and I remember like really him explaining, and now it's far away in my mind, but explaining how our soul came here to evolve, to grow, and to learn from experiences.
I completely agree with that.
And
wholeheartedly.
We are going to be here until our soul has completed what it needed to complete.
Yeah.
And this is,
I agree with that. That's
like,
why I
it's
said
so
earlier, I'm like, I
freeing.
believe God hasn't
Yeah.
given up on me because I
Yeah.
never gave up on myself.
Yeah.
And because of the
Exactly.
monumental life
Exactly.
adventure that I've committed to.
Because
Yeah.
whatever like our life path is, and sometimes we go through phases where we don't understand things.
Yeah.
We don't understand, like, why is this happening to me? Or why could all my friends have children and I could not?
Right.
And
from
why
that
did I
questioning
lose
of-
my, like, you know, all
And from
these-
that question of why, though, is where the feelings of like all the negative emotion comes from.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, why is this happening to me? And that it
'Cause
totally
you're resisting.
You're resisting, right?
Yeah.
It's versus embracing this
Yeah.
gift
Yeah.
that Tony Robbins really, I think, experienced this at a young age. What she taught, many times he says a lot. He's like, life isn't happening to you; it's happening for you.
For you.
And that one
Yeah.
really is, again, like how I
Yeah.
try to be that beacon in the night.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
And when you grasp on that, like, I feel like it makes everything easier. Like,
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, everything could happen to me. Like, I joke about it, but I'm like, it's true. And it's not to say that I think I'm better or I can handle things more or stronger. It's not that. It's just I'm okay with, like, being here with my soul, and
Sure.
whatever needs to happen. And it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean I'm never gonna feel sad or mad or or be in a dark place for a while. But I mean,
Like
I'm good.
your
Like, I'm on
emotions
the
are
right.
real, raw,
Yeah.
and relevant.
Yeah.
Right.
Every
And like
every
the more
emotion
we
is
embrace
relevant.
them,
Exactly.
and then communicate them
Yeah.
from a valid place,
Exactly.
and then we then say, come to peace with it. We change our
Yes.
story of it,
That
and
last
that
step.
story gives like that
Exactly.
new emotion.
Exactly.
And then you got the lesson in that new
Yes.
story, and then from there you've listened
Yeah.
by taking action.
This is
to
so great.
moving
Like,
forward.
coming
Yeah.
at peace,
Yeah.
creating new story. Like what
Yeah.
you said is like, this is what makes the difference between two choices, right? Because we're always
Yeah.
choosing something. So either we choose to get stuck, and I've been there before. Like, you choose to get stuck in a reality you don't really
Yes.
accept, you're not at peace with, and then you're resisting, and then resisting has a big cost.
It sucks.
Drains the energy
it's
out
just,
of you,
yeah.
drains life out of you,
Yeah.
and then it's even physically, like some illnesses,
Yeah.
like everything is
Yeah,
interrelated.
it's all connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you were just sharing is that, like, Andrew Tate, for example,
Yeah.
like everyone, there's some things that people agree with him. There's other things people don't agree with him. I'm a fan of the man. And one of the reasons why I'm a fan of the man is that sometimes he's really, really great at building a really simple explanation of what can be some really profound philosophies of life, right?
Yeah.
And from, like you said, like this whole exercise of like reframing, the story that's like going on in the back office of our mind, reframing it for the purposes of like, okay, now we're going to choose a better story. And that better story creates better emotion. And from better emotion, we're able to more easily, from a better state, make better decisions and take
Absolutely.
better action, right?
Absolutely.
And like he talked about like how life is just so binary, right? In every moment, what we're doing, you either can put a 1 on the board or a 0 on the board, and it's all these decisions that we make every day that like what your heart's telling you, be like, man, you should have that extra glass of water.
Yeah.
Don't have that coffee.
Yeah, we
Do
know,
that extra 5 minutes.
exactly.
Make that extra phone call. But it's all those are like they all add up as ones. What if you do them, right? And it's so incredible when you do what is hard. Eventually, your life will become easier. But if you don't do what is hard now, your life later on is going to become way harder.
For sure.
I just really embrace
Yeah,
that one.
this
That
is
one
such a
hits home for me.
Powerful fact.
Yeah.
There's a saying about conversations that says, easy conversations, hard life, hard conversations, easy life.
No kidding. I haven't heard that one, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine who mentioned this at some
Nice.
point. And I was like, yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Like, you can temporarily choose to ignore
Yeah.
the things that you need to address, but it always gets
Yeah.
back.
One of the things that I really appreciate you sharing such a deep experience that you went through, like in your career as like an RPN, was the call it like the when someone's passing away or passes away, right? It's like that so long experience, right? Like I've dealt with loss in my life, and saying so long to people is challenging. You were talking about the various emotions, like when someone's passing away or about call it like the feeling of regret, right? And, you know, one of the things I really wanted to, you know, try to do with, you know, the show at any opportunity was to give people, you know, just like that, be that little beacon in the night where it's like, hey, you know, here's an example or perhaps of that idea that like switches on that switch where you want to take action and start doing something different. And it's maybe sometimes you just need someone like you or me, you know, to give permission
For
to that other
sure.
person and say, listen,
Yeah.
I give you permission.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Or I
So,
believe in you.
I believe in you, right?
Like borrow it this
Yeah.
for a while. Yeah.
And where that whole decision comes from, like of like just going for it, it's like the discovery of like what your heart, and hearing what your heart is really, really trying to tell you. You know, for like anyone like who is like kind of maybe at that feeling of like you're hearing it but not ready to listen and take action. If there was like something you could say to those people to freaking go for it, you know, like to
Yeah.
just start. Like, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is remember who you are. Like, because that's been something that's helped me
I like that.
take
Remember
action
who
in
you
these
are.
moments. Yeah, the moments where you feel crushed. Because that moment you just described is someone who is aware
Sure.
of where they are, but they also know there's something else on the
Yes.
other side. And it's just like the,
Yeah.
I have like, I want to go there, but I'm scared, or I feel like I'm not capable of going, you know. Just remember who you are.
Right.
And there's so many ways to do that, but connect with yourself.
Yeah.
Stop sometimes. Like, just stop.
Sure.
Like, sometimes I tell people, like, just stop. Can you just stop for a while, for a minute? Like, breathe,
Yeah.
meditate, reach out to someone. Like, we had each other to reach out to.
Yes.
Because we know,
Yes.
like, I know never you would tell me, yeah, no, like, don't worry about that. Like, you know, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Like, I know it's not okay. Like, I just want a second opinion of like, okay, do something about it, you know?
Right.
So talk to someone and get help if you feel like you need to get help, and to hire someone, to have someone.
that.
Sometimes we need to have someone like behind us.
For
like
sure.
being accountable to people.
I like that.
You know, but just we've all been put here for a reason, and we're not just like random people here. So
I
just
agree.
like, you know, take that little spark and remember who you are, and just like 1% more every day. I like also to bring it up that way, because it seems intimidating in the beginning to try to change everything.
Yeah, the task at hand can look like Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And so like let's
Yeah.
take a minute, or like let's take
Yeah.
a second and realize, okay, it's like start small. Let's just take one step
Yeah.
forward, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from you is like, you know, what we're saying to everyone out there is just be honest with yourself of identifying what's that first step you can take forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And realize
exactly.
that the road's going to be a little curvy while you're taking these little steps
Yeah.
forward, but like anything is better than what you're doing right now with regards to
Exactly.
how you're feeling. So gift yourself really what you deserve to feel.
Exactly.
Oh, who did I hear this from? Where it was stress really comes from what it is that you know you're not doing and you should be doing.
Yeah,
Isn't
this
that
is so
crazy?
good.
That one blew my mind. I think I
Yeah.
heard that just like yesterday.
This is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you said, I don't remember if it's you that we had this conversation, or
I'll take credit for it.
some other everything. I remember. I don't know what the context was, but when you're not feeling so good, or when you're not feeling so great, what can you do to just feel a little better?
I like that.
Like just and that's
I
my
like that a
1%
lot.
more. Like, what can I do today to get a little closer to that version of
Sure.
me that I know I want to get to? And you know, people have their answer inside of them. Like, if they don't feel good where they are, it's because they're sometimes seeing other people living different lives and being
Sure.
like, hey, why don't I have that life, even if
Yes.
you don't know everything? But then you have that spark of like, hey, what am I doing? So just to say 1%, what can I do 1% more
Sure.
to get closer to that, and to also like not get into that, because sometimes people, when you realize that you've been settling, it's also an option to start feeling like a fail.
Sure.
You know, like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
I'm
I think that's like
35
really an emotion
years
you gotta,
old,
you gotta
and now
process.
and
Well,
then
what a great gift though too from an awakening perspective. Yeah.
for sure. But the ego and the mental conversation can also try to convince you that it's too late, that
Sure.
you've done all that, like
I'm
you've
out of
studied
time.
all these years to do that job,
Yeah.
like really you're
Yeah.
gonna,
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
all these things that block people, and a lot of people will say it like, oh, but I've invested all my life in that, but it
Sure.
doesn't mean you cannot share your gift anymore. It just
Right.
means like sometimes it's the little
Right.
1% like in every area.
There was two things that you said really resonated with me. One is that, you know what, if you're feeling like crap, be real and just find that little extra 1% thing that you know if you just did it this moment, the next few minutes, it would help you start to feel better.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how just the littlest thing, that little step forward, can turn into like this monumental transformation.
Yeah.
It alwa's got to begin from somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And Tony Robbins used like the really cool analogy where the power of momentum. He really, really hit home on that, right? And momentum again comes from taking that one little step forward first,
Yeah.
and then consistently trying to like, okay, well, the next one and the
Yeah.
next one, putting those
Yeah.
ones on the board,
Absolutely.
right? And then all of a sudden, this little snowball that started at
Yeah.
the top of the mountain with
It's,
wet
like,
snow,
getting
and we
big.
know snow
Yeah.
here in Mont Tremblant,
Yeah.
right? It gets big. It turns
Yeah.
into this big, beautiful, freaking awesome, just smashing through your old
Yeah.
self snowball down a hill that is really where you deserve and want to be, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Action creates momentum and then keeps fueling momentum.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's so important to like get out of the negative state. Like, going
Totally.
welcoming the emotion, being like, okay, today I'm feeling like shit. This happens.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time processing it and everything, but then at some point get out of your cave a little bit, like
Yeah.
go outside, go run, go walk, go
Yeah.
talk to your dog, go
Yes.
go enjoy
Yeah.
dinner with someone. And this is, for me,
Go
it's
for a
not
walk,
it's
like-
not always a distraction,
Yeah.
because we tend to confuse things a lot in our society right now,
Sure.
because like there's so many people talking about everything, but like, oh no, don't distract yourself, like work on yourself and heal and get better and work on you and stay alone and focus. Yeah, for sure.
I really like
this
that.
is okay, but at some point action creates momentum
Yeah.
too. Action will make you
You know
you
what,
gotta keep going.
One of the
That's how-
things that, and this is the second thing that you really reminded me about, was that success leaves clues. Again, I'm a Tony Robbins guy. Like, I'll always give credit to where I learned the lessons
Yeah.
that I've learned, right? And he says success leaves clues. And you mentioned that when and if like you're kind of feeling in the dumps, take a self look in and be like, okay, it's like, well, who do I find that's like doing good, right? Maybe it could be a really close friend, or maybe it's someone you don't know, and you just, based on your definition of success, really admire that person, right?
Yeah.
Well, success leaves clues, right? Like, start by diving in and studying that person, right? Like, if they got a book out,
What are
great.
they
If they're on
doing?
YouTube, even better,
Yeah.
because it's free. If they
Yeah.
got reels,
Yeah.
stuff like that, and then begin the transformation
Yeah.
process by starting with that. Because again, like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just follow what the things are that people's are, like their habits, their
Yeah.
rituals, their patterns,
Yeah.
their belief systems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And from there, that process of like self-study and studying like other people
Yeah.
is really where like the rabbit hole really, really begins. For it's like you start really awakening of like, okay, these people are getting fundamentally different results in life. But I feel like we're all the same people. Well, what's the difference in the recipe of me versus
Exactly.
them? And I
This
think
is so key.
Yeah, and then from
Yeah.
there, like I think really from that place of discovery is when you really realize that like, man, that person's got a really fucking hard story. They've grown through, conquered, and have chosen to like
Chosen something
appreciate
else.
those
Exactly.
things. That like those are gifts that have really made that person who they are.
Exactly.
I think like that is the process of really, if like you're hearing, that tornness in yourself,
Yeah.
like what you're doing right now is not what you want.
Yeah.
The start of like really embarking on the listening to it and taking action
Yeah.
is self-studying other people, and you learn the
Yeah.
how far quicker because you're compressing time. You're learning how what took them 5
Absolutely.
years can now take you maybe
Absolutely.
one day.
It's like a big gift.
Yeah, it's I think it's an
Learn
amazing
from
gift, right? So
other
if there's
people.
one
Yeah.
thing that is an idea I could share to people to
Yeah.
help them,
For sure.
I think that's a really, really great thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
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 And then everything, like if you believe, if you start acting like who you really want to be,
Right.
it's going to be faster than like what you think. Things
Yeah.
start happening, things start shifting. You just like start acting. You know, I always tell my clients like, okay, that version of you that you're always like dreaming of,
Yes.
what would she do today? Like, what would she do with that
Yes.
email? What would she do with that argument? Like, what? And then I know it's hard. I know you're not used to do this, but
Yeah.
do what she would do. It's, you
I,
know,
I love the word dreams, and I say that because like the word has just such like a warm, awesome
I know it's
feeling for me.
inspiring,
It's an
right?
inspiring
When you
word,
go
right?
dream.
Dreams.
Yeah.
And Steve Harvey, do you know Steve Harvey?
Yeah,
He's like an
yeah.
amazing comedian. He's
I
really
like him.
been really big on like, you know, helping and serving, contribute back, and like the man has such like an incredible life story, right? With regards to like, you know, living in his car for many years
I know.
while being, you know, in America, like, and not to mention like, you know, being black, man, in America, like back when
Yeah.
like he was really
Yeah,
going
yeah,
at it, man,
they
like it was
had
just
their
such a shit hard
challenges,
time,
like,
right?
I know.
No breaks
know,
whatsoever,
I
right?
know.
And like everyone every once in a while deserves a break. This guy, no breaks,
I
but it was
know.
only through like hard work,
Yeah.
amazing dedication, and like
Yeah.
faith, unconditional faith,
Faith.
in his dream. He's like, I want to be on TV one day. I want to just, you know,
Yeah.
have my presence. He was even laughed at when he was a kid from a
Yeah,
teacher
because he already,
because
I
you know he
know,
wanted to go
I
after that.
know.
But the one thing he really taught me was your dreams, and if and when you have some amazing experience in your imagination about a future you that's even so fundamentally far away from who you are right now, and you think it could be impossible, or it's impossible right now for you to experience that. He said this really cool thing, and I believe in God, by the way. I'm spiritual, you know.
I believe in
I don't
God
know if I'm
too.
religious, but like I'm spiritual, what have you. But
Yeah.
he said that
I get
God,
what you're saying.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's,
yeah.
I do not
I don't go to
solely
church.
believe in life. I'm
Yeah,
like, no, there's
but
a God, but
I
it's
just there's
that's
something
okay.
there.
The fundamental
it makes,
is there.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes that's how it
Yeah.
makes sense of the world.
Yeah.
But he said with your dreams, it's like God wouldn't ever give you something in your imagination that you couldn't bring and achieve
know.
and experience in this
I
world.
know. I know.
And he taught this other cool example about it to justify it. He's like, when and if you get that and you take extreme action towards going after it, and you make adjustments towards and within that extreme action towards going after it, the fundamental success factor of it all, though, is having unconditional faith that your actions, no matter how much great you're experiencing during it or how much crap you're experiencing it, that if you embrace unconditional faith, God's shipped it to you,
Yeah.
to what he says, to a point in time.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it, though, is he's like, listen, though, it's like that shipment, you don't know the delivery date on it,
No.
but you know what street it's being shipped to. It's not being shipped to, oh, I hope it happens, or, well, it'd be nice if it happens.
Yeah.
It's only shipped to Faith Street.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure that when it arrives on Faith Street, you're still living there.
Yeah.
So you have to like just,
Ready to-
yeah, like relentlessly,
Yeah.
extremely, like just go
Yeah.
after it. So, and that's like another thing I could really share to like anyone who's like thinking about like going after doing something different, right? You know, and
I like
just
that.
don't give up.
Yeah.
Faith.
No.
Yeah, faith, it will
No.
get you freaking through it.
Absolutely.
And that from that place of like when you really believe something,
Yeah.
when life is 99% uncertain,
Yeah. Exactly. That's
right?
the truth.
You gotta be your own source, your own cheerleader to like power through
And life
be able
is
to
short.
take the
Like
action.
we're here for such a short time.
Oh yeah.
Like you're 10 and then all of a sudden you're 20, all of a sudden you're 30.
I know.
And then 40.
Yeah.
And then what? We're, you know, it like this in a glimpse,
Yeah.
it'll be over and then we'll go to
Yeah.
wherever we believe we'll go or what happens
so like make the
after.
most
So,
out of it, and
yeah.
make the most out of it is
Yeah.
you gotta really check into what's going on in the back office of your
Yeah,
mind.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we should dive into? We've covered like a lot of awesome
Yeah,
stuff.
we went deep.
Let's try to wrap this up with like just one last kind of question. We'll dive into something here. I mean, you can ask me it, or I can ask you it. Maybe whoever comes up with it first. I like
Yeah.
that, you know? If there was one thing that like you're excited about your future, if there was like one thing that comes to mind, what is it?
You know, you mentioned stage earlier.
Yeah,
My mission is what excites me the most.
I love that.
Yeah, the feeling that I feel when I'm around people and we're like getting through these breakthroughs, like it's really
Breakthroughs
powerful
in
inside
people?
of me, in people.
Yeah, through
not
your
me.
own actions in helping and serving.
I organized an event last winter with people. Like I wasn't on a stage, but it was that kind
Sure.
same vibe, right? And the way I felt like during that day, it was exactly like the feeling that I had wanted to materialize when I met Tony, and when I felt like, oh, I want to do what he's doing. And I had such an amazing day. People went through so many emotions. I was like on cloud nine the whole time.
That's
and I was
amazing.
like, okay, I want more of this. I was like, I want more of this. I want to share my voice more. I want people to tap into like who they really are more and more. Like that's what excites me.
Got it.
You know? And it's also part of living life to its fullest. Like I feel like I get a new chapter like every single day.
I love
for
that.
real. So I'm like, okay, where could you go like a little further? And that's exciting, like without even knowing where I'm headed.
Right.
It's exciting. Like
It is exciting.
there are no limits like in front of me. So I'm just like giving out my best self every single day to be also the best for myself, but for the people around me, for my family. And then the rest unfolds. But I'm just excited with life like all the time. So when you tell me what excites you, it's like, I know sometimes people go, I have this, that's launching and this, and I'm just like, I'm excited about tomorrow already.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I go to bed, I'm excited for the morning. Like
being present in the moment.
Yeah.
And like, again, that's where we really learned that Tony Robbins event was like the start of really unfolding to understand the profoundness and the importance of gifting yourself to be just here in this very second, in this very moment, from a place of like love and gratitude and appreciation. What amazing results that can bring into your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps me in a high state.
Yeah. Because like, that's freaking great.
Yeah.
I'd really like that.
Okay, so now I have my question for you.
All right,
now
cool.
It's like in the same lane, but
Sure.
what keeps you going like the most?
Wow. If I knew what keeps me going the most.
Or what do you think keeps you going?
You know,
because people will see the show, like everything. We hear people a little bit here and there, but you don't see like you don't see what's behind the scenes.
Yeah. Because
there are days where you're like me, a bunch of people were like, oh my God, like, how am I gonna get through that?
It's real. Yeah.
So what keeps you going? What? Because your commitment to yourself and your growth is always been huge.
Thank you.
And like solid.
Thank you.
So what keeps you?
If I knew what keeps me going, wow. I think if we want to like, go back to like say childhood and stuff like that, I would say like at a young age, like my mom passed away, right? And I think I was in grade 10 when that happened. And I really came to like more peace with that because recently Rob, who's like, my head videographer, he's my bro of all things creative here, at our office or whatever we call this place, the studio. We went back to my hometown, Cape Real. And I really went from a place of like going to really understand where I came from as a kid, and finding all things of appreciation for all the experiences that I had, the good ones and the bad ones, right? And it was such a really healing journey. And for anyone who's like, hasn't been to their hometown, like really where they grew up as a kid, for a long, go and invest like a day or two there, go connect with old people, go see old places, go for walks, all the things, right? And just really understand then, now where are you as a person, as a human, right? And give yourself a freaking reach around and give yourself a pat in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
And so one of the things like I really found more peace with was, the gift of, okay, well, like at a young age, my mom passed away. And one of the things was, who would my mom want me to really grow into? Who, like, for all the awesome time I did get to invest with her, like, who would she really, what was all that time invested for? And like really, maybe if she was still around, who would she be, coming down at me? I'd be like, Chris, this is like your true potential and stuff like that, right? So that's like an underlying factor of like why like I'm so extreme with like what I'm going after and what I'm trying to experience, and also, trying to like do this like, help and serve other people. And this is my way of giving back to the world, right? The other one really comes from that moment of discovery at like that Tony Robbins event, that big moment of deja vu when I was like 2 hours into like day one, and all of a sudden I'm like, I look around the room, just like it was like getting hit by like a good lightning bolt. a lightning
Wow.
bolt of just
Yeah.
like awakening
Yeah.
and being like, I've always wanted to achieve and experience something incredible in my life. I just never ever could understand what I was hearing inside. And that was like the moment where I was like, hey, I'm like, I want to experience something like this. This is just, I really believe what my nature is. When I was a kid, I was always wanting to help people and stuff like that too. And so now more than ever, that when I know clearly what, like, where I want to go and experience and what I want to experience in the future, now that like I know, it's like, okay, well, if this is what it is, and I'm trying to set something that like I believe is even impossible, at least though I know now, like, this is what I want to go and grow through and really love every day of the process, because this is just so aligned with like what my heart is, with what I'm
The
doing.
word aligned. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
And so lastly, I was talking about sacrifice, right? And like, I believe what I've embarked on and leading up to this point, I've had to make some really big decisions in my life, like leading up to this, like even before I even knew what I wanted to do, like I've had to, you know, say so long to people that, you know, have been around in my life for a long time. Say, you know, you know, so long to like old friend groups, say so long to like, you know, cities that I've been really familiar with. It's just an endless, you know, amount of sacrifices. And for me, they all have really stemmed from, I want to go after and really experience what my true potential is in this world, because I
Yeah.
really believe that there's one that can help and give back to other people. But also because like, I believe God has a really long plan for me in my life. And because of that, I don't, when I'm actually on my deathbed, I really don't want to have any regrets. And like, that's why I do what I
Yeah.
do. That's why like,
Yeah,
I'm
we're
just,
kind of fueled by the
yeah,
same
I'm
thing.
so
like
extreme with
the-
what I'm
yeah,
going
yeah,
after.
yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for asking that. I appreciate
like
that. That's
that.
a good question. Yeah.
Inspiring.
Inspiring.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Jihane,
You've come a long way.
You too. We've come a long way since
Thank
that moment,
you.
and I'm blessed to have you absolutely on my show. And I hope we get
Thank
to
you.
have you again back, and I'll be here cheering you on with all of your amazing
Anytime.
entrepreneurial supermom endeavors.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me. Such a
Thanks.
great conversation. I
Thank
could go
you.
on for hours. Thank you.
Blessed.